How we doing? Tobin, back in the den. Episode 6 in my razor review series. Before I go any further, in episode 5, I reviewed the Ascension Select from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. Long story short, going to keep it brief. I wish I could go back and make a change to that. Moving forward with adjustables, I want to focus on the mild efficiency and enumerate it. I didn't do that with this. And then I gave it a 10 for overall efficiency. If I can, I want to change that rating to where we'll give it a mildness of 2 and a maximum efficiency of 8. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And moving forward, that's how I'm going to do that. So without making it take too long and explaining it, a friend of mine, Mike, pointed some things out. Mike Parrott, I believe it was. And I got to thinking about it more. And so a 2 and an 8 for the Ascension Select. Let's go. Just like the other episodes before, first we're going to take a look at the efficiency score. 3 things that make a razor efficient: the gap, the angle, and the exposure of the blade. We're going to focus in on gap and exposure. The blade gap with the Rockwell 6S and the Rockwell 6C are identical. The only difference is the materials. So on the first blade gap, we have a gap of 0.20 millimeters or 0.008 of an inch. And then you can go all the way down to plate 6, where you have a blade gap of 0.79 millimeters and a gap of 0.031. To put that into perspective for new wet shavers, the Merkur 34C, which is what a lot of people will recommend you buy, it has a blade gap of 0.020. So plate number 3 is almost identical because plate number 3 has a 0.019. The blue tip from Gillette, the old flare tip, the blue tip, that also had a 0.020, and then the red tip had a 0.030. The exposure, how much of the blade sticks out, is what I would call neutral. It's a nice happy ground. You can feel the blade, but there's not too much blade. I absolutely love the Rockwell razor. I do not like the T2. I'm not a fan of the T1. I had the T1. I sold it. I still have the T2. I almost never use the T2. I do not recommend buying the T2 unless you're a collector and you feel like you absolutely have to have it. I also don't recommend buying the Rockwell R1. You can actually get that same razor cheaper elsewhere. Focus, Tobin. We're talking about the Rockwell 6S and the Rockwell 6C. So for mildness, I actually used both razors last night with plate 1 in it. Left side I did the stainless, and the right side I did the Zamac, the chrome. Super efficient. I did 3 passes and it's still, or super mild. I did 3 passes and it still wasn't nearly efficient enough. And to be honest, I think I bought this first in 2018, and then a year or 2 later, I bought this. I don't think I'd ever used plate 1 until just last night, and only for this video. Normally, I love plate 4. I flip-flopped the first couple of years. I was using plate 5, I was using plate 3, but the last few years, plate 4 is the plate that I go with it and I stay with it. So for efficiency, I'm going to go with a 2 on it for how mild it can be, and then I'm going to take it all the way up to an 8 as well. Plate 6 is efficient, but it doesn't feel like so aggressive that you're going to cut your face off. But at the same time, though, it can take down a week's worth of stubble with no problem. Put a sharp blade in there with plate 6 and you're good to go. I can't say enough good things about this razor and how much I love it. It is a workhorse and it will always be in my den. Both of them, I enjoy using them. Efficiency score, a 2 on the low end and an 8 on the high end. That takes us down into what I call the symmetry score. With the symmetry score, we're looking at the knurling, whether or not the blade tabs stick out, and then the weight and balance of the razor. Both razors are perfectly balanced. Right about here, right where you want your fingers to be. That's where you want the balance to be at, is right where you're going to be holding your fingers. And so when I take it and I hold it, boom, that's right where you want it. Same thing with this guy here. Now, the knurling on the stainless is a little grippier, if you will. And I think that has a lot to do with the CNC machining versus the mold or die cast, however it is exactly that they're making this. There is a little bit more of a grippiness to this razor, and I think that goes beyond, you know, just the chrome plating. I think it's actually the knurling itself. So the blade tabs do stick out, as you can see in the photos. When this razor came out years ago, this razor first came out like 2014, 2015. When it first came out, that was still the norm. Anymore today, the industry has, you know, moved away from that. So that is something that you need to be aware of. If you shave under the nose or any of the tight spots, it doesn't bother me. In fact, I like it. But for a symmetry score, I feel like the knurling could be better, and that the blade taps could be covered more than they are, because they do stick out like you would find them sticking out on a vintage razor. So for that, I'm giving them both a 7. Next, we look at the tolerance score, the blade alignment and the blade chatter. So when you put the blade onto the top cap and you put it together, how easily is it aligned so that both sides have the same exposure with the blade? I do feel like that this is one place that the Rockwell does better than most, but not as well as some of the elite razors today. Like I reviewed the Athena and the Envoy. Those are 2 razors that you can set it in there and completely forget about it. Now, the alignment is good, but it's not great. And one way that you can often tell that your alignment is off, besides it like slicing your face open, is last night, for example, I was shaving with the stainless, and when you're shaving, I have blades in them right now, but I don't have a blade in this one. When you're shaving and it feels like one side is more efficient than the other, that's because the alignment is off just a little bit. And so that's where I was last night. I kept finding myself, because I was using plate 1, I kept finding myself wanting to use one side in particular because it was more efficient. I was getting, you know, more blade feel. I was feeling more of the blade. Now, it's never anything extreme, but it is something that you have to pay attention to, which is good that those blade tabs stick out, because then you can hold it by the blade tabs when you put it together and you screw your handle on. Chatter, there's no chatter. You don't have to worry about the blade moving. Once you get the head secured, it's not going anywhere. But because of the alignment issue, I'm going to give it an 8. Both razors have the same issue, and I'm giving them an 8. Next, we take a look at the permanence score, and with that, we're looking at durability and construction. The stainless steel, made in America. I double checked with Rockwell just the other day. I sent them an email, and like 12 hours later, they replied, and they said that the stainless is indeed still made in the United States. The chrome, the 6S, or the chrome, the 6C and the 2C, is like a Zamac, a zinc alloy with a chrome plating. You can get that in 3 different colors. For permanence, I'm going to give the stainless steel a 9.5. This thing, it's an heirloom piece. I don't see how I could ever destroy it. It's made like a Sherman tank, like you would expect a stainless steel to be made, and it's rugged. Now, I've said before how I like Zamac. I don't think there's anything really wrong with Zamac, and I think that most Zamac razors with TLC will outlive us. I expect that to happen with this guy here. I've had it probably 6 or 7 years now. I don't know for sure. Used it 1,000 times. As you can see, the only thing that has happened with it, and this is to be expected with chrome plated razors, not maybe to this extreme, but you can see how the plating is wearing off. Now, I kind of like, personally, how it has worn off, like you see there in the photos, because it kind of gives it this rugged, worn look to it. But that's not something that everybody's going to like. So maybe they've improved upon that and the newer razors are doing better, but I can't, review those razors. I'm just reviewing mine. And so the stainless steel, a 9.5. And I've also been told too that you'll see that happen if you get the colored stainless ones. But again, I never purchased a colored stainless steel. And so all I can review is just my straight up matte stainless steel. Permanence on the stainless steel, 9.5. On the chrome, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it will outlast you, but you do need to be careful with it and give it a little TLC. I'm going to leave it at that so we keep moving for time. Next, friendliness to new wet shavers. For new wet shavers, we're looking at everything that I talked about up above, but also what I recommend is that a new wet shaver doesn't spend less than $30 because you don't want to buy a piece of junk and it not work for you. And at the same time, not spending more than $50 on your first razor, because if wet shaving isn't for you, and then you haven't put out a bunch of money. Now, if you buy this, the stainless steel retails for $120. That's on Rockwell's website, that's on Amazon, and that's at the wet shaving store. I need a wet shaving store t-shirt, Andy, if you ever see this, the wet shaving store. If you use my code Tobin at checkout, you can get 10% off of all Rockwell razors. So that's $12 off the stainless, $6 off the 6C, and $4 off of the 2C. Now, for a new wet shaver, I really think that all you need is the 2C. And with the 2C, you're going to get plate 1 and plate 3. For those who don't know, real quick, you have 2 plates on each one. So, for instance, this one here, I have plate 4. You flip it over, there's plate 2. So, with the 2C, you're going to get 1 bottom plate, but when you flip it over, you get the 2. And I really believe that one of the best buys a new wet shaver can make for a new razor is the Rockwell 2C. And if you buy it at the wet shaving store, you'll save $4, bringing it down to $36. But even if you decide you want the extra plates and you go with the 6C and you get all 6 plates, you're only going to spend $54. That's at the wet shaving store. Tobin is the code. I will not profit a penny, but you will save 10% off of these razors. Just remember, the minimum shipping threshold is $70 for free shipping. So if you buy the 2C, I'm going to give it a 9.5 for a new wet shaver. If you buy the 6C, an 8.5. I still feel like even spending that $60, if you don't buy it at the wet shaving store and you buy it at Amazon, that's one of the benefits with Amazon. You're an Amazon Prime member, buy it off of Amazon for the $60, use it for a week or two. If it's not for you, return it. No questions asked. I love doing that to Amazon. I've paid for Amazon for Prime for years, and I feel like that's one of my benefits as a Prime member. And so, yes, I do occasionally take advantage of it. Absolutely. I don't just pay for the free shipping. I'm paying for the free returns. So that's something else to keep in mind too. Overall value. The overall value on the stainless steel is an 8.5. The overall value on the 6C, I'm giving a 9.5. I really feel like you're getting essentially the same razor. This one is 12 grams lighter. Slight difference in the knurling is really a matter of what suits your needs. If you've got the money and you can spend the $120, or if you buy it from the wet shaving store, the $108, I say reach for the 6S. But money's tight. I would recommend the 6C or the 2C all day long to anyone and everyone. I love it. It's good stuff, Maynard. It's the little big things, and as always with this kind of series, a little big thing for me is value and feeling like after I've purchased something, whether or not I got my money's worth. And I do believe that for most people, the Rockwell 6S and 6C will deliver a great value. Thanks for joining me. Take care, and I'll see you next time.